"Sleep in the car tonight. My mother needs your bed," my husband declared, shoving me hard into the wet, cold mud. I sobbed, struggling to open the locked car door. Just then, my father-in-law, Marcus Holloway, a renowned attorney, pulled up. He lifted me out of the grime and looked his son dead in the eye. "I was driving to file for divorce from your mother, but now I have a new goal," he thundered. "I will be your wife's lawyer. Get in the car, honey. We're going to leave them destitute through the courts." But before that saving moment, Nia had to endure the most terrifying minutes of her life as her familiar world crumbled right beneath her feet into the chilling autumn sludge. The icy rain lashed her face, streaming into her eyes and mixing with her tears. Nia Wallace, a black woman in her early 30s, lay on the wet cobblestones outside the gates of the suburban mansion she had considered her fortress for the last 5 years. Her coat was instantly soaked through with muddy water. She tried to push herself up onto her hands, but her palms only slid on the slick clay. On the porch, sheltered by a sturdy awning, stood Ethan, her husband, who had kissed her cheek before work just that morning. Now he was fastidiously dusting off his hands, as if touching his wife had soiled him more than the mud on her clothing. "Are you deaf?" he yelled, his voice cutting through the noise of the downpour. "I said you are not coming inside. Mom is tired from her trip. She needs rest, not you hovering around." Nia finally managed to stand on shaky legs. The cold was penetrating to her bones. Her teeth chattered so violently she could barely speak. "Ethan, have you lost your mind?" she choked out. "What car? It's 32 degrees outside. Let me inside. I'll sleep in the guest room." "The guest room is drafty," Ethan snapped. "Mom wanted to put her things there, but she decided it wouldn't be comfortable. She's taking our bedroom. She needs the orthopedic mattress. Her back is sore after the train ride. And you toss and turn all night. You'll bother her." "And me?" Nia took a step toward the porch. "Where am I supposed to sleep?" "I told you clearly. In the car," he said. "The seats fold down. You'll spend one night out there. It won't kill you. You can bear it for my mother." He turned and reached for the heavy front door handle. "Ethan!" Nia screamed, lunging toward him. "Don't you dare!" The door slammed shut right in front of her nose. The deadbolt clicked. Then another lock, which they only used when leaving for long trips. Nia pounded her fists against the wood. "Open up! I'm freezing! Ethan!" Silence was the only reply. The light in the foyer went out. But then, a light flickered on upstairs, in their master bedroom. The silhouette of Serena Holloway, her mother-in-law, appeared in the window. Serena adjusted the curtain and didn't seem to even glance down at her daughter-in-law standing in the pouring rain. Nia realized this was no joke. She turned and ran toward her car, a white sedan parked by the garage. She needed at least to warm up, turn on the heat, and dry off. She pulled the driver's door handle. Locked. She frantically searched the pockets of her soaked coat for the keys. They weren't there. She had left her handbag in the foyer when she walked into the house 5 minutes ago, not yet knowing her life was over. Suddenly, the car's headlights flashed yellow, and the alarm chirped a short warning. Nia looked up. Ethan was standing at the second-floor window. He held her car remote in his hand. He pressed the lock button again, looking her straight in the eyes. "Ethan, give me the keys!" she yelled, yanking the door handle with all her strength. "Open the car! I'm going to freeze to death!" He didn't respond. He simply drew the thick curtain closed, disappearing into the warmth of the bedroom. Nia was alone. The rain intensified, turning into freezing sleet. She pressed her back against the cold metal of the car and slid down, right into a puddle. The despair was so thick it became hard to breathe. The neighbor's fence was high, but she knew the people in this respected gated community heard everything. Tomorrow, the whole neighborhood would know how Ethan Holloway's wife had been tossed out like a stray dog. She hugged herself, trying to control the shaking. Her body was starting to go numb. Her mind was blank. No plans, no thoughts, just the primal fear of the cold. Suddenly, a powerful beam of xenon headlights cut through the darkness of the street. A black SUV sped toward the gates. It didn't slow down for the puddle, sending a wave of muddy water against the fence, and braked sharply right in front of Nia, barely missing her feet. The driver's door flew open. Marcus Holloway, Ethan's father, stepped out. He wasn't carrying an umbrella. His expensive cashmere overcoat instantly darkened with moisture, but he seemed not to notice the rain or the wind. Marcus was furious. It showed in his heavy stride, his clenched jaw. He saw Nia sitting in the mud and froze for a second. His gaze darted to the lit windows of the house, then back to his daughter-in-law. Ethan, having heard the roar of the engine, peered out the window again. Seeing his father's SUV, he threw open the sash. "Dad!" he shouted, a note of panic in his voice. "Dad, why are you here? It's Nia. She's throwing a fit. I was just trying—" Marcus didn't even lift his head toward his son. He stepped into the sloppy mud, ruining a pair of shoes that cost more than all the furniture in Ethan's living room. He bent down and, catching Nia under the elbows, pulled her to her feet. She swayed, but he held her steady, gripping her shoulders firmly. His hands were hot. "Dad, don't listen to her!" Ethan wailed from above. "Mom just asked for some quiet." Marcus slowly raised his head. Rain ran down his face, but his stare was more terrifying than any storm. "I was driving to file for divorce from your mother," he boomed. His voice, accustomed to dominating noisy courtrooms, sounded like a final judgment. "But now I have a new goal. I will be your wife's lawyer." Ethan froze, his mouth hanging open. "Get in the car, honey." Marcus gently pushed Nia toward the passenger door of his SUV. "We're going to leave them destitute through the courts." Nia, still in shock, obediently climbed into the high cabin. It smelled of leather and expensive tobacco. It was warm. Marcus slammed the door shut behind her, circled the vehicle, got behind the wheel, and without looking at the house again, floored the gas pedal. The SUV shot forward, spitting gravel. For several minutes they drove in silence. Nia was shaking, and water from her clothes dripped onto the floor mat. Marcus steered with one hand, while with the other he pulled out his phone and dialed a number. "Northside Private Medical Center. Emergency. I have a passenger with hypothermia. Prepare a room. Yes, I'm paying." He hung up and looked at Nia. In the light of the dashboard, his face looked carved from granite. "Marcus, Mr. Holloway." Nia's teeth chattered. "Why? Why are you here? You were supposed to be on a business trip." "I wasn't on a business trip, Nia," he said harshly. "I didn't just show up at my son's house tonight for no reason. This morning, I was checking my accounts. I'm an old, paranoid fool, you know that. I check all money movements every morning." He gripped the steering wheel until the skin on his knuckles turned white. "I found a transaction that Serena tried to hide, a transfer for $200,000. She told me a week ago she was going to New York for a business seminar to brush up her skills. I believed her." The SUV whipped around a corner, but Marcus kept the road steady. "But the money didn't go to New York," he continued, his voice trembling with suppressed rage. "The money went to St. Jude's private maternity wing right here in the area. Payment for a VIP suite." Nia stopped shivering. The meaning of his words reached her slowly, piercing through the shock. "She got sick?" Nia asked quietly. Marcus gave a bitter laugh. "No, honey, she didn't get sick. I called the chief administrator, threatened them with an investigation by the state attorney's office, and they told me who my wife had been visiting all these days. Serena wasn't at a seminar. She was sitting by a new mother's bedside." He turned to Nia, and in his eyes, she saw pain mixed with a resolve to destroy everyone who had betrayed him. "Ethan has a mistress, Nia, and Serena knew about it for months. She paid for the birth with my money. This morning, your husband had a son, a boy I was never supposed to know about." The news of Ethan's secret son should have crushed Nia, but instead, Marcus's words acted like a cold shower, washing away the last remnants of self-pity. Nia stopped trembling. Her tears instantly dried, leaving a tight crust of salt on her cheeks. Inside her, it was as if a switch had been flipped. The heartbroken wife was gone. The chief auditor woke up. "Take me to your place, Marcus," she said. Her voice was rough but firm. I need a computer and a reliable internet connection. Right now." Marcus gave a short nod, appreciating the change in her gaze, and pressed the gas. 40 minutes later, they were in Marcus's penthouse downtown. It was quiet and sterilely clean, nothing like the home she shared with Ethan, which was filled with the antique clutter Serena loved so much. Nia didn't even go to the shower, though her clothes were sticking to her body. She dropped her dirty coat on the floor in the foyer and went straight to her father-in-law's office. She sat down at the wide desk, turned on the all-in-one computer, and cracked her knuckles. "Password?" Marcus asked, pouring her a glass of water. "I don't need your passwords," Nia replied, quickly typing the address for the Holloway family's cloud storage. "I need Ethan's passwords, and he's an idiot. He uses one password for everything, his mommy's birthday." She entered the digits. The system paused for a second and let her in. The entire financial life of the Holloway family unfolded before Nia's eyes. She saw everything: joint accounts, credit cards, savings deposits. Ethan, confident in his impunity and her presumed stupidity, hadn't even bothered to change the access codes after kicking her out. He was too busy celebrating with his mother. "What are you looking for?" Marcus stood behind her. "I'm not looking. I'm acting," she murmured. Nia's fingers flew across the keyboard. She logged into the online banking. Here it is, the main family account. Serena's platinum card, tied to Ethan's account. Limits are wide open. Nia smirked. "The marital property law," she said out loud, mostly to herself. "Assets acquired during the marriage are considered communal. Until a court rules otherwise, I have every right to manage this money. The same right he does." She didn't withdraw the money. That would look like theft. Her move was more subtle and far nastier. Nia opened the security settings. Card blocked due to suspected data compromise. Click. Accounts frozen until the owner's identity can be verified at a bank branch. Click. Daily ATM withdrawal limit set to $0. Click. The screen flashed green. Changes saved. "Sleep tight, sweetheart," Nia whispered, leaning back in the chair. "Your mommy is going to have a rough morning." The morning did not start with coffee. The Empress Furs luxury salon smelled of expensive perfume and leather. Serena Holloway stood before a huge mirror wrapped in a lavish, dark sable coat. She turned, delighted by how the fur shimmered under the lights. A young sales assistant fussed nearby, showering her with compliments. "It looks absolutely incredible on you," the girl chirped. "It's an exclusive model. Your son said you shouldn't spare any expense to celebrate the birth of your grandson." Serena smiled smugly. She felt like a conqueror. The daughter-in-law was tossed out. The grandson was born. Her husband would complain, of course, but he wouldn't leave. Life was good. "I'll take it," she nodded regally. "And that hat, too." She carelessly tossed a black platinum card onto the counter. The sales assistant reverently inserted it into the terminal. Beep. A long pause. "Try again," Serena said impatiently. The girl frowned and repeated the operation. The terminal let out a nasty squeal. "I'm sorry." The sales assistant's voice was slightly less unctuous. "It says declined. Insufficient funds or the card is blocked." "What nonsense is this?" Serena's face turned crimson. "It's unlimited. This is your bank's mistake." The queue behind her began to whisper. Other high society ladies were in the salon, many of whom knew Serena personally. Serena felt cold sweat run down her back. "Try the other one." She pulled a card out of her other handbag with trembling hands. Beep again. "Operation declined. Please contact your bank." "Your terminal must be broken," Serena shrieked, tearing off the fur coat. But the sales assistant was no longer looking at her like a VIP client, but like a fraud. "The terminal is working perfectly, madam. The previous customer's payment just went through." Someone in the queue quietly snickered. That sound hurt Serena more than a slap. She fled the store, holding her phone to her ear, and dialed her son. "Ethan!" She screamed into the phone so loudly that passers-by jumped away. "That trash blocked my accounts. Do something immediately." The counterpunch didn't wait long. 2 hours later, Nia was sitting in Marcus's private office at his law firm. She was studying 3 years of statements, trying to find traces of other spending on the mistress. Marcus worked at the neighboring desk, preparing the divorce petition. The office door burst open without a knock. Standing in the doorway were 2 uniformed police officers and one in plain clothes. Behind them, pale but furious, loomed Ethan. "That's her!" He pointed a finger at Naya. "Arrest her!" Marcus slowly stood up, shielding his daughter-in-law. "What is the meaning of this, gentlemen? On what grounds are you barging into a private legal firm?" The plainclothes officer, a heavy-set man with a red face, smirked. Nia recognized him. Detective Sergeant Riley, an old buddy of Serena's who often came to their home for cookouts. "A report of grand larceny," Riley drawled. "Mr. Holloway here claims that Ms. Wallace, upon leaving the house, stole family jewels, an emerald necklace and diamond earrings, valued at approximately $5 million. Nia stood up. Her heart pounded, but her mind remained cold. She had been waiting for this. "I didn't take anything," she said calmly. "Search her purse and her pockets," Ethan commanded. "She definitely hid them there." "Don't bother." Nia picked up a tablet from the desk. "Ethan, you seem to have forgotten that I completed a property inventory for the insurance company 3 months ago. I'm a certified auditor, and my reports have legal weight." She turned the screen toward Riley. "Here is the digital inventory. Every piece of jewelry is photographed and assigned a unique code. And here is the safe access log. The last time the safe was opened was yesterday at 6 p.m. sharp. Ethan did it. I left the house at 9 p.m. sharp and never approached the safe. Furthermore, all the jewelry has GPS trackers installed at the insistence of the insurance company." Nia tapped a few buttons. A red dot flashed on the city map. "Look, Detective, the dot is at the address. The Hamptons, Forest Road, House 7. That's your weekend retreat, Ethan. The jewels are there, in the safe. You are simply trying to fabricate a case." Silence hung in the office. Marcus chuckled approvingly. Ethan blinked in confusion, shifting his gaze from the tablet to the detective. Nia felt the taste of victory. She had fought back. The facts were on her side. But Detective Riley didn't even look at the screen. He slowly pulled a folded sheet of paper from his inside pocket, smoothing it neatly on Marcus's polished desk. "That's all very interesting, Ms. Wallace," he said smoothly, and Nia felt a chill inside. "GPS technology, but we have a much more serious document." "What is it?" Marcus frowned, reaching for the paper. Riley covered the sheet with his palm. "This morning, we received a complaint from Serena Holloway and your son. They reported erratic behavior by Nia Wallace, hysteria, suicidal threats, aggression." "That's a lie!" Nia exclaimed. "And this conclusion from the chief psychiatrist of City Clinic No. 1 says otherwise." Riley removed his hand. Nia stared in horror at the official form with stamps. Written in black and white was, "Acute psychotic disorder. The patient presents a danger to herself and others, incapable of taking responsibility for her actions." The date was today's. The signature was authentic. "Based on this medical evaluation," Riley's voice sounded like hammer blows on a coffin lid, "and in accordance with the article concerning temporary incapacity, your husband, Ethan Holloway, is granted guardianship and full power of attorney to manage all your personal property and accounts." Ethan beamed. He walked over to the desk, took the tablet from Nia's weakening hands, and shut it off. "You're sick, darling," he said with feigned sympathy. "You shouldn't worry about money. I'll unblock the accounts myself. And you're going to get help if you don't put up a fight." Marcus remained silent, looking at the document. He knew that this bureaucratic wall couldn't be broken down right now. Nia understood that her legal freeze had just been annulled by one forged certificate. She hadn't just been robbed, she had been officially declared insane. Marcus didn't waste time arguing with the crooked detective. As soon as Ethan and his entourage closed the door, he grabbed the phone. His voice was dry and frightening, like the crack of breaking branches. "Hello, Stephen. This is Holloway. Urgent. I have an outrage here with a fake expert opinion on my daughter-in-law, signed by your deputy. If this circus isn't annulled in 10 minutes, I'm bringing up those 10-year-old cases regarding your summer home. Yes, I'm threatening you. I'll wait." He slammed the receiver onto the desk and turned to Nia. "We'll get the psychiatric hold canceled," he grumbled, rubbing his temples. "But the power of attorney is trickier. It will take days for a court to invalidate it." Nia was already in her bank app on her phone. The screen flashed red. "Too late," she said softly, looking at the zeros in the balance row. "He's already transferred everything. My personal savings, my deposit, even the money from my payroll card. Everything went into his account 5 minutes ago." She raised empty eyes to her father-in-law. "I have nothing left, Marcus, not even bus fare." "You have rage," Marcus cut in, "and you have work to do. You'll live here, in the office. There's a couch in the archive, a shower, and a coffee machine. This is your command center now." And so began her life in the war room. Nia turned the conference room into a flight control center. Tables were covered with printouts. Money flow diagrams hung on the magnetic whiteboard. She slept 4 hours a night, ate instant noodles, and dug deep. She needed to find where the family's money had been going all these years. If Ethan was just a greedy fool, Serena Holloway was a smart and calculating enemy. Nia downloaded 10 years of Serena's credit card statements. It was terabytes of data: boutiques, beauty salons, resorts. But among the endless luxury spending, Nia noticed a strange pattern. On the 5th of every month, a fixed payment left Serena's account. The amount varied: 50,000, 100,000, sometimes 200. But the purpose was the same: consulting services. "Vector LLC," she muttered, entering the company into a database. "A shell corporation. Legal address in an industrial zone on the outskirts of the city. Founder, a certain Rybakova." The surname seemed familiar. Rybakova. Nia closed her eyes, running through the faces of her past. College, sophomore year, Yvette Hayes. Her best friend, with whom she had shared a dorm room, dreamed of careers and swore they would never become boring housewives. Yvette had dropped off the radar 5 years ago, saying she was moving to New York to build a business. Nia had even envied her boldness back then. "So, a business in New York," Nia muttered. She printed the founder's address. It wasn't an industrial zone, but an old, dilapidated apartment building in a neighborhood local cab drivers avoided. An hour later, Nia stood before the shabby door on the 5th floor. The elevator was broken, and the hallway smelled of cats and dampness. She rang the bell. Footsteps sounded behind the door, then the click of the peephole. "Who is it?" The voice was guarded but painfully familiar. "Yvette, it's Nia. Open up. I know about Vector." The lock clanged. The door cracked open. Yvette stood on the threshold, but not the bright, ambitious beauty Nia remembered. Before her was a tired woman in a stretched-out sweater with dark circles under her eyes and unwashed hair. Yvette silently stepped back, letting her guest into the narrow corridor cluttered with boxes. "I knew you'd come someday," Yvette said quietly, not looking her in the eye. "Serena said you were too dumb to dig this deep, but I remember you acing that audit class." Nia walked into the kitchen. A bottle of cheap wine and an ashtray full of butts sat on the table. "Are you Ethan's mistress?" Nia asked bluntly. She needed to know. Yvette gave a nervous laugh, lighting a cigarette with trembling hands. "Ethan? God forbid. That mama's boy makes me want to throw up. No, Nia, I'm not sleeping with your husband. I work for your mother-in-law." "You're the laundry service," Nia realized. "You launder the money she's stealing from her husband." "I help her move assets," Yvette corrected, blowing smoke toward the ceiling. "Serena found me 5 years ago. I'd lost my first business and was deep in debt. She offered me a deal. She pays off my loans, and I become the nominal director of her shell companies. Why? She has everything: a millionaire husband, a house, cars. She wants more." Yvette looked at Nia with pity. "You never understood the family you married into. Serena never believed Marcus would stay with her forever. She was preparing a safety net, a huge, fat cushion stuffed with Marcus's money that he didn't even know was missing. Nia walked to the table and slammed her palm down. How much did she take? Where is the money? The money's gone, Yvette answered indifferently. It's invested in real estate, in stocks, in offshore accounts. Everything is registered to Vector, and Vector formally belongs to me. But Serena has a general power of attorney from me to manage everything. I'm just a pawn, Nia, a stand-in. You betrayed me, Nia whispered. We were friends, and you helped that witch rob my family. I was surviving, Yvette shouted, tears spilling from her eyes. I didn't have a husband like yours. Nobody handed me money on a silver platter. Yes, I took her payments. She paid me a percentage for every transfer. And you know what the funniest part is? I can't even spend that money because she keeps me on a leash. If I step out of line, she'll turn me over to the police as a fraud. Nia looked at her former friend and felt nothing but disgust. I need the documents, Yvette. Everything you have on Vector. Yvette waved toward the bedroom. They're in boxes in the closet. Take everything. I'm tired of being afraid. I'd rather you put me away than have her kill me. Nia walked into the room. The closet was packed with folders. She pulled out a thick one labeled real estate at random. She opened it. The very first document made her heart stop. She reread it twice, unable to believe her eyes. The letters jumped, but the meaning was horrifyingly clear. Yvette! She shouted. Is this real? Yvette appeared in the doorway, leaning against the frame. What is it? There's a lot of interesting stuff. The building for Marcus's law firm on Wacker Drive. The office center, 5 stories. Yvette gave a twisted smirk. The jewel of the collection. Nia held a sales contract from 5 years ago. Seller, Marcus Holloway. Buyer, Vector LLC. Transaction amount, $10,000. How? Nia breathed out. Marcus would never sell the work of his life for peanuts to some shell company. He owns that building. He thinks he owns it, Yvette said softly. Remember 5 years ago when he had that heart attack? He was in the ICU, medicated. Serena brought him a stack of papers to sign, Yvette finished. She told him it was consent for medical procedures and payment of the clinic bills. He signed a general power of attorney for asset alienation. The next day, Serena sold his office building to my company. Technically, Marcus has been renting his own office from his wife for 5 years, and she can kick him out any second. Nia sank to the floor, clutching the folder to her chest. This was a catastrophe. Marcus was proud of his independence, his firm. If he found out he had been a tenant in his own castle all this time, it would kill him faster than any heart attack. She's holding it as an ace in the hole, Yvette whispered, in case of divorce. The divorce has already started, Nia said, rising. The cold fire was back in her eyes, and she's about to play this card. I need to get to Marcus before she sends the eviction notice. She grabbed the box of documents and rushed to the exit without saying goodbye. Yvette remained standing in the hallway, looking after her with bleak envy. Nia wasn't running to save herself. She was running to save the only person who had offered her a hand in the mud. But she didn't know that the courier with the eviction notice had already left for the office. Nia sped down the highway in Marcus's SUV, breaking every imaginable rule. The box with the Vector documents bounced on the passenger seat. She had to make it. She had to warn him before the blow landed. But when she turned onto Wacker Drive, her heart sank into her stomach. A crowd stood at the entrance to the stately building of Holloway and Associates Law. Reporters with cameras, onlookers, and, most terrifyingly, movers in dirty overalls were carrying boxes of documents, an office chair, and even Marcus's favorite fiddle-leaf fig tree out the main entrance. Nia abandoned the car in the middle of the street and ran toward the steps, pushing people aside. "Let me through! What's going on?" she yelled. In the center of the chaos stood Serena Holloway. She was wearing the new sable coat she had managed to buy, presumably with a different card. She was radiant. Beside her, a court bailiff was reading a document into a local news camera. Due to the termination of the lease agreement by the property owner, Vector LLC, the firm is required to vacate the premises immediately, the bailiff droned. Marcus stood on the steps of his former kingdom. He was without a coat. The wind whipped his gray hair. He looked not like a fearsome lawyer, but like an old man whose world had been shattered. He clutched the sales contract, a copy of which Nia was carrying, that his wife had just presented to him. "Serena, what are you doing?" His voice was quiet, but the reporter's microphones caught every word. "This is my home, my practice. I built this for 30 years. Serena stepped close to him, smiling for the camera. "It's business, Marcus," she said loudly, making sure everyone heard. "You taught me yourself. Nothing personal. You defaulted on the rent and the new owner? I decided to change the building's profile. It's going to be a spa for mothers and children." The crowd gasped. The cameras greedily captured the humiliation of the great attorney. "You stole this from me when I was dying," Marcus choked out. He grabbed his chest. His face was ashen. "I saved the assets from your dementia," she snarled, losing her mask of benevolence. "And take your little parasite with you." She pointed a finger at the running Nia. In that moment, Marcus's legs buckled. He didn't fall only because Nia managed to catch him. "Marcus!" she screamed. "A doctor! Someone call an ambulance!" He was breathing heavily, gasping for air like a fish on the bank. "My heart," he whispered, squeezing Nia's hand so tightly it hurt. "Nia, don't give up. The documents." The ambulance arrived quickly. Marcus was loaded onto a stretcher.